So, wow, I have been gone for a really, really long time. I think I've been gone for about 7 months. Gosh, it's gonna be such a hard video for me to film, but I think I'm at that point where I can talk about it without crying. So, I finally escaped my family. It wasn't easy though, I had to get the police involved. Fled the state, moved to a different town, was homeless for 2 months. Now I'm not. It's. Oh, this is just been a roller coaster of events. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that there's gonna be a lot of triggering topics spoken about in this video. So I'm just gonna put that off the bat right there. This is my story growing up in my bad household. First of all, I would say that I just never got along with my family. It's safe to say that I was my mother's least favorite child. She loved my siblings. She treated them way better than me, and they treated me as horribly as her because they knew they could get away with it. It's just, I grew up in a household where I was constantly insulted about every little thing about my existence, my body, my goals, just me. It just came to a point where I just started looking around and I just hated my small town. I was just looking around and there was nothing but sadness left for me there. I was being mistreated badly throughout my whole entire childhood. Being treated badly at home, being bullied at school, had fake friends that would smile to my face then talk behind my back. It just came to a point where I was just like, I can't take it anymore. And I left. And it was the best decision of my life. While everyone was asleep, I had packed my stuff. 2 days later, I was gone. I had no plan. Just this deep urgency inside my heart that I needed to leave. I spent my whole life alone anyway. What difference would it make if I had left? I would say I first had the urge to leave when I was 5 because at that point I had realized that I needed to be the own adult in my life and raise myself. By age 10, I would say that's when I first became depressed because at that point I had realized that my mother could not be trusted, nor could my siblings. I just spent my entire childhood hating myself, struggling with eating disorders and self harm. And it was just this tiny bubble that I was living in. And no one cared. My family used to pretend that everything was okay. It literally just felt like a fever dream. I used to hate myself for hurting myself when I was younger, but throughout these 7 months, I've realized that no, it was not younger me's fault for coping in ways like that. It was the people around her's fault. You know, Physical pain was the only way I knew how to deal with emotional pain. I understand younger me's pain. I feel almost motherly towards her. Because she grew up in a household where she was taught that love had to be earned through suffering and pain. My mother would constantly withhold her love from me every time I would just put like a tiny boundary in. You know, the only time she would ever offer me love or relief was when I would break down. You know, I wish I could tell younger me that she deserved love simply for existing and not what she could do for others. My my mother set younger me up for failure and she's mad because present me decided that she wants a better future for herself and, a better life for herself. I actually confronted my family a couple of days before I left and, they had amnesia. Oh, that never happened. Oh, you know, I was just tough on you because you were my favorite child. I, you know, just painting me as the villain. And it's like you're gonna always be the villain in this story no matter what. So you might as well just be the villain, living far, far away from them, in peace. I had been through so much emotional and sexual trauma, and All of it came from the people within my own family and the people, both immediate and extended family. And they all act so innocent, like nothing happened. That, oh, why are you so mad, Vanessa? You're so emotional. Just gaslighting me out of my pain and trauma. You know how hard it is to see the people that SA'd you. I'm gonna say SA because YouTube is incredibly sensitive and it will take down the video if I say the whole word. So I'm really sorry if that annoys some of you, but I can't help it. You know how messed up it is. Seeing the people that hurt you cry about you leaving and acting like you're the bad guy for abandoning them. You know how messed up that is? I used to be so ashamed to talk about it that it was, SA was a shameful thing to go through. But now that I'm healing, I realize that, the only ones that should be shamed are the people that didn't, not me. Why should I carry the pain? And just growing up in a victim blaming household, I was just, I'm sorry. I knew this was gonna happen. I just, I was always told that I had to be the one that had to carry the shame and blame. So I just could not tell anybody about it. Not the people that didn't do it. I couldn't rat out the people that did it. I was just trapped. And I just couldn't take it anymore, so I left. And I will never regret it. I don't care if they paint me as the villain for leaving. I don't care if they say I'm evil. My very last phone call with my mother, all she did was cuss me out and say she regretted me. She regretted creating me, like she always has. Just painting me as this evil human being and making me feel bad for wanting relief. The same as my siblings. Not a single apology from them. Just, oh, like, how could you leave us? How could you abandon us? It's like me wanting to be a grown woman and finally being happy with my life was the evilest thing I could have ever done. And it brought me so much guilt throughout these 7 months. And I don't know how I'm going to get over this guilt. It's just like, I'm working on it. I really am. It's like I am evil for being mad about being mistreated. I'm evil for wanting no contact with the people that just hurt me throughout my entire childhood. They loved it when I was small and afraid because it gave them control. But I don't care anymore. I will not give them control anymore. No, I should have calmed down for a bit. When I was about 15, my mother had given me a gift of 20K in her attempt to silence me and just basically buy my forgiveness, but instead the exact opposite happened. For the next 6 years, I just saved that money and I just ran away the first chance I could get. And before anyone says, oh, like, why couldn't you leave earlier? I was so emotionally gaslit. People don't understand how traumatic these relationships are. You can't just pick up and leave. It took me so much pain and suffering to actually finally say that I am leaving. I refuse to take this treatment anymore. So I just left. 6 years later, I spent all that 20K just renting hostels. I was homeless for the next 2 months after I left the state and moved to a completely different town. I just spent all of it on living in hostels, just giving myself shelter, just doing whatever I could to survive. After blowing all that money, I finally got a job, and now I'm, in my own place, which I'm so grateful for. But you know what the craziest part of it all is? That even when I was homeless and I had nothing, I still felt freer than I ever did in that household. And don't get me wrong, I love the life I have now. But it's so crazy to me that back when I had nothing, I still felt happier than I ever did in that house. It's so crazy how an environment can have such an effect on you.